Bonjour tout le monde! Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel guys. I hope you're doing amazing. I'm happy to see you today for another video, and for this week's video, talk about a interesting topic, which is the corporate and the business French. So we're gonna see everything related to that topic, the vocabulary, how to express this theme, and have some easy expressions. We're gonna see everything related to that theme. So let's just start corporate and business French. First, as usual, table des matières. What are we gonna see in this video? We're gonna talk about les métiers, of course, the jobs. Then, les services d'une entreprise, meaning the services of a company. Then, les verbes utiles, useful verbs. Les expressions en entreprise, which is the company's expression. Les mini-dialogues, some tiny dialogues, and a final exercise, exercice final. So, comes to the goals, les objectifs. À la fin de la séance, je peux, at the end of this class, I can, parler de mon métier, talk about my work, talk about my job. Dire dans quel service je travaille. To say in what service, meaning in what field am I currently working in. Comprendre des conversations simples au bureau. Being able to understand easy, simple conversation in the office. Demander des informations à un collègue. To ask some information to a colleague. And last but not least, répondre à des questions simples, being able to answer to some basic and simple questions. Let's just start straight away with the part, les métiers, the jobs. When it comes to jobs, you know that of course you have different types of jobs, and then you have different types of title and position. So we're going to see everything. First, a manager, you're going to say in French, un manager. A coordinator, un coordinateur. Receptionist, une ou un réceptionniste. Then, if you want to say the human resources manager, un responsable RH. RH stands for ressources humaines, human resources in French. Un responsable RH. Analyst, un analyste. And we do the link, un analyste. Then an IT specialist, someone who works in IT, computer, un informaticien. Masculine, informaticien. If you want to switch that to feminine, keep in mind that you have to double your final N and then add your feminine E. Une informaticienne. Then an accountant. To say accountant, comptable. Un comptable. And careful, never pronounce the P. So you avoid the P. Comptable, accountant. Then a salesperson or sales representative, un commercial. An assistant, un assistant. Don't pronounce the T, you stop at the en sound. A director, un directeur. Then we have an intern, un stagiaire. Same for feminine, you just change the un to une. Un stagiaire, une stagiaire. And the last one, an employee, un employé. Careful with the sound of this one. Employé. And if it's feminine, you add your E for un and you add your final E for employé. Un employé, une employée. Ending with double E. Let's reread them one more time for the pronunciation. Un manager, un coordinateur, une réceptionniste, un responsable RH, un analyste, un informaticien, un comptable, un commercial, un assistant, un directeur, un stagiaire, un employé. Perfect. Now you have the main vocab when it comes to jobs and titles and position. Now let's just les services, the services. So, human resources. For the human resources, les ressources humaines. Then we have marketing, le marketing. Accounting is la comptabilité. Careful with this one, do not pronounce the P. Comptabilité. Then the IT department is l'informatique. L'informatique is the department. Then the sales. If you want to say sales, les ventes. Vente, sales. Customer service, le service client. Then management, la direction. Careful with this one. La direction means the management. Then you have administration. Same word, but of course, careful, you have to pronounce it with the French accent. So you're going to say l'administration. Good. Then you have communications. La communication. Communication. And last one, logistics, la logistique. It's feminine, singular. This is pretty much it for this. So make sure that you got them. You can reread them to make sure you understand everything. And yeah, I think you can use it in any topic, any field. So that's pretty interesting words to know. Now let's just move to the tasks, les tâches. To reply to emails, répondre aux emails. To prepare a report, préparer un rapport. To analyze data, analyser des données. To organize a meeting, organiser une réunion. To welcome clients, accueillir les clients. Careful with the word here, the verb to welcome, accueillir les clients. To manage payroll, gérer la paie. Paie is payroll. Gérer la paie. To solve an IT problem, résoudre un problème informatique. To call a client, appeler un client. To send a document, envoyer un document. And don't pronounce the T of document. To work on a project, travailler sur un projet. To give a presentation, faire une présentation. To take notes, prendre des notes. To sign a contract, signer un contrat. One more time, let's read it fast. Try to do it with the same speed as me. Répondre aux emails, préparer un rapport, analyser des données, organiser une réunion, accueillir les clients, gérer la paie, résoudre un problème informatique, appeler un client, envoyer un document, travailler sur un projet, faire une présentation, prendre des notes, signer un contrat. There you go, and know your main tasks. Let's focus, of course, on the verbs. So, I think the majority of them you already know them and are aware of them, so it's just mainly a recap, but there's maybe some that you don't know yet, so let's just work on it. First, to work, travailler. To send, envoyer. To receive, recevoir. To finish, terminer. To start, commencer. To check, vérifier. To help, aider. To call, appeler. Then we have to explain, expliquer. To prepare, préparer. To participate, participer. To organize, organiser. To answer, répondre. To ask, demander. And to meet, rencontrer. Now the main verbs that you can use in any specific topic. Those are pretty important words. So if you can remember those verbs, that is super great. Now pretend we're in a meeting, en réunion. La réunion commence. The meeting starts. Nous avons une question, meaning we have a question. You can sometimes hear, avez-vous une idée? Do you have an idea? Je suis d'accord. Je suis d'accord means I agree. Je ne suis pas d'accord, meaning I disagree. Merci pour votre participation. Thank you for your participation. So these are like some expressions, phrases that you can hear, that you might use, that is related to the theme. So in a meeting, you can keep that in mind. Now, some useful expressions. Hello, bonjour. How are you? Comment allez-vous? And don't say comment ça va. Comment ça va is informal. I'm in a meeting right now, so I need to be formal. Comment allez-vous? Do you have a minute? Avez-vous une minute? Super formal. I put my verb first. I flipped it with the pronoun that goes after, and my pronoun you is vous. That is super formal. Then, thank you for your help. Merci pour votre aide. I'll check. Je vais vérifier. Which is the same as I'm going to check, I'll check, je vais vérifier. I'll send you the document. Je vous envoie le document. I don't understand. Je ne comprends pas. Can you repeat? Pouvez-vous répéter? Of course. Bien sûr. No problem. Pas de problème. My pleasure. Avec plaisir. Have a nice day. Bonne journée. And now those useful expressions are going to be able to be used in every situation. So if you know them, that is pretty amazing. Now, time to practice. I made you a little exercise where you have some words to place at the right spot. You have marketing, informatique, comptabilité, ressources humaines, vente, service client. Depending on the phrase, you have to put the word at the right place. So, let's just read the phrases and I'm going to let you complete it. Julie répond aux questions des clients. Elle travaille au... Marc crée des publicités. Il travaille au... Emma prépare les salaires. Elle travaille à la... Thomas installe des ordinateurs. Il travaille à... Sophie recrute de nouveaux employés. Elle travaille au... Lucas vend les produits de l'entreprise. Il travaille au... And you have to complete it. That's pretty much it for today's video. I hope that you guys liked it. If you did, please don't forget to put a little like, little thumbs up or a comment. We'll be happy to have it and to see that you guys liked it. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask. We'll always be here to answer and try to help as much as we can. And I'm wishing you all a good end of your week. And I'm seeing you next week for another video. Salut!